It's hard to believe we're already here in 2022. I know it's crazy that last year flew by us so fast. Now we're a year and a half into this pandemic, and the way that you go about buying a house in Myrtle Beach has definitely changed from back in 2019, 2020. Due to supply chain issues, market conditions and trends, and so many different variables, the whole process of buying a house is now completely different. So today I wanted to take some time and kind of go through 5 tips to help you make the move to Myrtle Beach much easier. I'm going to discuss some things that'll make your life much smoother when moving to Myrtle Beach. So let's get into this list. And the first thing that I wanted to share is this. Try to take a trial run and come to Myrtle Beach. I talk to people all the time who are so familiar with Myrtle Beach area. They tell me how they have visited here for the last 15, 20 years and are so familiar with it. They know where the great places are to get a buffet food. They know where to go and have a great breakfast in the morning, but they've never really taken time to visit the area and think through things of living here versus being on vacation in Myrtle Beach. And when you're living here, things are done very differently. So you need to take time, visit the different areas of the beach and figure out which section, first and foremost, you really want to live in. Where do you want to spend the next several years of your life? And you need to think about the things you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Things like, hey, I got to do grocery shopping. Where's the good doctors that I'm going to need? I have a dog or a cat and I need a vet that's going to be nearby. Do I have one of those? Are they good rated? I have children. Where are the schools? Things like that we need to think through more than just simply, hey, this is close to the Great Crab Shack where I can get crab legs for $10.99 and eat all I want. So we need to take time and really think things through. I would suggest doing kind of like a semi-trial run. Come down for a couple days and spend time in different sections of the beach to figure out which section is going to be the one that you want to spend the next many years living in. Once you do that, you will then know that you're making the best decision when moving to the area. The second tip that I would highly recommend is to make sure you have some money in the bank. It doesn't matter if you're moving across town, across the country, it costs a lot of money to make a move. You're going to need money to get to the area. You're going to need moving trucks. You're going to have all types of expenses like closing costs, or even if you're renting, you're still going to have additional expenses when you move into a property. You're going to still need things like maybe you need to paint a room, or you need to get some new clips to hang those shelves on the wall, or whatever type of small renovation projects that might come up along the way. You're going to have additional expenses. And so you want to make sure that you have some money saved up, because no matter how frugal you are and how good you are at doing things on a budget, it's still going to cost money to do that. You're going to need some money to get used to different areas. You're going to have to restock a refrigerator. That can be expensive because it's not easy, especially if you're moving 10 to 12 hours to bring a full refrigerator of food with you. So a lot of times people end up giving it away, or for the last few months before moving, they're eating up all the things in the refrigerator so that they don't have to try to pack a cooler and keep things frozen for a 12-hour drive and then getting them into a house. Because the reality is, sometimes when you get here, you're not moving right into the home. You may have to wait for closing or recording, and well, if you have all that frozen food, it's just going to go to waste. So make sure that you have some money put aside for making that move. The other thing I would say is this. Prices in our area have gone up. So while you may have saved up some money for putting towards your closing, you're gonna want some more now, because in 2021, prices in our area went through the roof. Prices skyrocketed up. Homes that used to be available for $200,000 are now selling for $275,000. We've had some issues recently where builders, say you're thinking about that new construction, we have builders that are raising their prices. Why? Supply chain issues again have come up. Getting products in are harder to do, and the prices on lumber once again has started to creep up. I had just this last week a client who was ready to buy a home in a new development, and it was a smaller local builder, and unfortunately we spoke to the agent on site on Thursday night. On Friday, when we were ready to meet, about an hour before that, they called me to let me know that the builder decided the night before to raise the price. Now, it wasn't a small little price increase of maybe $1,000 or $1,500. This small builder on a home that was $235,000 rose the price $20,000 overnight. So my client, who was ready to buy that home for $238,000, was now going to need to spend $258,000, and unfortunately it put the home outside her budget. So make sure that you have some money saved up. Start storing things away and get ready for your move, and it's going to make your whole transition to Myrtle Beach much smoother and easier. All right, guys, make sure you stick around, because at the end I have a bonus tip that I'm going to give you as well. The third thing on the list that I wanted to share is you want to take some time and drive the roads in the area. Depending on what season we're in, could majorly change the time that you need to get around our area. If one of the homes you're thinking about is right along the major corridors of 501 or Highway 544, at different times of the year, peak season, traffic could be extremely heavy. That could easily add 20 to 30 minutes to your trip. You want to take some time. You want to drive these roads in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and you're going to get to learn a lot about that area. And it's going to help you to make an informed decision on whether you want to buy there or not. Back many years ago, my family owned a home right off of Highway 501. And one of the things that we learned is that we could leave to go home from work at either 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, and we would basically get home at the same time of day. Why? It was either we're in rush hour traffic and we would sit and bumper to bumper to go down 501, or we could wait another hour, work a little bit later at the office, and get home with just a quick, smooth drive there. So you want to make sure that you pay attention to those things and learn the road systems, and also learn the different shortcuts to get around the area. I would highly recommend, if you have time, visit the area during the peak seasons, and you will then get the best overall estimate, because some of those areas of 501 on a Friday afternoon can be much more busy than they are definitely in January and February of the year, and it'll make a big difference in your time to get around. And once you own that house, unfortunately, it doesn't matter. You're stuck driving with the traffic any time of the year, whether you want to or not. So the fourth thing on our list is probably one of the biggest issues and discussions that I had with people in 2020 and 2021. And that was, people want to make the move to the beach. They're tired of the cold snow that they're dealing with in the north. They're tired of high taxes or living in a state where they're stuck inside due to this pandemic, and they want to move south because they've heard about the amazing weather we've had. They hear about the ability to go outside and enjoy things and do things and have a little bit more liberty in life. But the problem is this: they want to move here, they want to buy a house, and it's awesome to want and do those things, but they don't have this major thing figured out, and that's called, how am I going to pay for the house? So it's really important that we've kind of discussed that and thought through this whole process. If you have a job that allows you to work remotely, great. We're set, we're ready to go. Come on down, get the note from your boss saying you can work remotely, and we'll find you a house tomorrow. But if that's not the case, you might have to go find a new occupation when you get to Myrtle Beach. That might mean you need to start a new career, and if that happens, it might delay your ability to buy a home. Now, if you're staying in the same type of occupation, we can speed up that timeline. I recently helped a gentleman who moved down here. He's a master mechanic. He worked for a company up in the Northeast where he was a mechanic. He came down to a new business here, was a master mechanic here. All he had to do was go start the job, have 2 paychecks, and we're able to get him in a home. And we're actually closing him next month. But if you're someone who used to be a mechanic and now you're going to become a stocking of shelves, or you're going to go become a salesman at a car dealership or something completely different, that's going to change your entire ability to purchase a home. Now, if you have a job that's going to put you in a salary, you might be able to get in sooner than later, but the reality is this: if those types of things happen, a lot of times you end up having to rent for 12 to 14 months and establish an employment in an established job in order to purchase. So before you start packing your bags to move to Myrtle Beach, let's have a discussion, let's think this through, and make sure that when you get here, you can actually own a home and not be stuck as a homeless person on the street. And the fifth and final thing that you really need to think about and consider before making a move here in 2022 is, what area of the beach do I want to live in? The number one thing that I get asked when I talk to someone on the phone is this: Jeremy, I want to move to Myrtle Beach. I've heard so many great things. I've watched your videos. They're so amazing and you've given me so much information, but we want to know, where's the best area to live? And here's the thing that I say over and over to people all the time. Myrtle Beach and the surrounding areas are all very unique and have their own type of personality. It's kind of like my children. Each of them are very unique in the things that they like, dislike, the way that they act and react to things. And you need to pick the area that you're going to live in based on your own personal choices. You need to move to an area that you're going to like, live in an area that's going to fit your personal needs and wants. Maybe you want to be close to everything. If that's the case, you might think about moving to places like Market Common, where you have that live, work, play area. If you live there though, just understand, you're gonna have a smaller yard. You're gonna be very close to your neighbors, and you're not gonna have acres of land around you. You're gonna have everything though real close by, and it's gonna be great and convenient. Or maybe you're someone who says, you know what, I don't want that. I wanna be out in the country and I wanna have my privacy. I want acreage. I wanna be away from everyone where nobody's able to see in my windows. And that's awesome and great. But just realize, if you do that, then you might have to spend 20 minutes to go pick up that jar of pasta sauce for spaghetti that you forgot and the noodles are already cooking. You're gonna be in trouble because you're not gonna be able to have a quick, easy meal that night, because you gotta take an hour now to drive into town, get what's needed for the recipe, and get back home. So you wanna take some time before you start saying you're ready to move and looking at houses, and really figure out, what are your needs, number one? What are your wants and desires in the neighborhood or in the area you're in? And then once you've kind of figured out and narrowed in on a segment of the beach, then start worrying about houses. Here's the reality, guys. We can find you a home almost in any segment of the beach. We can get you something. It's easy to do. The bigger question is going to be finding the home that fits your needs in the area that's gonna have your personality wants. So let's first take the time, figure out what area is going to best fit your needs and wants and desires. Once we have that figured out, then we'll take the time to get into the houses. It's easy to find a home with the white cabinets, gray floors, and blue shutters on it. That's not the issue, and that's not what's gonna make you happy at the end of the day. It's making sure that we have a good area with the great home in it together. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed those 5 tips on making the move to Myrtle Beach in 2022. And here's that bonus tip that I was telling you about. And that is, you want to get connected with a local lender. It is so important in buying a home in 2022 that we have everything in place before we go out and start looking at properties. And one of those components is having a pre-approval in place. Now, why do I say a local lender? Those local lenders understand our local real estate market here in Myrtle Beach. They understand the way things work. They have the connections with the local appraisers and attorneys and everyone who's involved in making the transaction go smooth and easy. The other thing is this: when you work with one of the local lenders, you're going to have that personal representative in town that you can call and ask questions to. When you try to use somebody who's a national brand like Bank of America or Rocket Mortgage or Quicken Loans, one of them, you basically become a number. When you call them, you get a different person on the phone each time, which means you're wasting time explaining over all of the things that you said to the person before. Versus when you have someone local, I call up Erica. Erica answers the phone every time and she knows what's going on. So we want to take the time, talk to those local lenders, get a pre-approval in place. I kind of look at it as a free pass to spend. So once we have that free pass in place for a $350,000 purchase, we know we're qualified to go make it and get things done. And when we submit our offer, we're going to send a copy of that along, and it's going to help to make your offer stronger than others that are coming in. Because the reality is, here in 2022, the market is still very strong. Many homes are seeing multiple offers, and so anything we can do to make ours look better than the rest, we definitely want to do. So hopefully you enjoyed this. If so, guys, as always, give it a thumbs up, get that bell on, and I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.